Hello, everyone. This is Dawn Takis, and I'm coming to you from my office in downtown Pittsburgh. This podcast is The Point. It's all about your wedding planning in Pittsburgh and beyond. And I am with my good friend, Chrissy Cole, today from Escape Reality Travel. What a great name. Just love that name. Can talk about that for a while. But she is here to give us some insights on travel agencies, what that's all about, when to start planning your wedding. And so, without further ado, we're going to get right into it. Chrissy, welcome to the show.
And thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So happy to have you. So, I'm just going to get right into it. What's the first piece of advice that you give couples when they are planning their honeymoon?
Yes, that is a great question. So the biggest thing is really just understanding your budget. Just a lot of times couples will say, well, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know how much this is supposed to cost, which is a very fair question. But you have to have some type of range, right? Are you looking to spend 5,000, 10,000, 15,000? Because that really does help us determine where we can send you. There is just some place, if you're saying, we want to go to Tahiti on a $5,000 budget, I'm going to say it's probably not going to, work. So really just having a broad idea of what your budget is very helpful when you speak with a travel advisor.
Good advice. Good advice. And couples that are concerned about the cost of the honeymoon, are there any kind of payment options that they can navigate?
Yes, absolutely. So most of the vendors require payment to be made within 30 to 60 days. You always have to make a deposit. The airfare, when you're booking the airfare, usually has to be booked up front and paid for, but you have about 30 to 60 days before you depart in order to finalize payment. However, what you can do, I have some couples, I just booked a couple for next July, and they have already started making payments. So they are just, monthly, they're just saying, hey, can you put, $500 down? So it's very flexible. It's as long as it's paid in full by the final payment date, you can make as many payments as you want up until then.
I like that. And so
Yeah.
when would you encourage them to start planning their honeymoon once they become engaged?
Right. That's really a great question because, I would have said to you pre-pandemic that, 6 months is fine. And I'm not going to say like you still can't do it in 6 months. You can. What happens is availability starts to go away. So on some of those more popular resorts, when people are like, we want to go to St. Lucia and here, and I might be able to get you the resort, but not the room that you want, or I might not be able to get you the exact resort. I'll be able to find you something, but it really is. I mean, I have people planning 12 to 18 months in advance. I'm not saying that everybody has to do that, but when when you're engaged and you're like, okay, let's start thinking about the honeymoon, I would put that on your timeline a little bit sooner, just because with the high intensity volume we're experiencing in travel right now, things definitely are booking up a lot quicker than they used to.
Agreed. And not only that, I think that once a couple becomes engaged, they start, first step is to start planning their budget. And the immediate focus in your mind is going to be the wedding, the reception, the rehearsal, the dress, all of these things that you've been
Right.
dreaming about since you were a toddler watching Disney. And maybe honeymoon might not be in that frame of mind at the time.
Right.
And I think that's so critically important for people to realize, like, you've got to work that into whatever budget you've allowed, or you're going to find yourself kind of short pocketed when the time comes to book your honeymoon, correct?
Right. And I think just to add on to that, so, as you know, I've been a vendor at some of your awesome sip and shops that you've had. The bridal shows have been amazing. And the brides that we've talked to, so many of them say, I say, hey, do you have your honeymoon planned yet? Expecting that, a lot of them will say, oh, yeah, we already did. But a lot of them are like, no, that's actually the last thing that we're planning. And so it's given me an opportunity to talk to them, to say, look, I get it. Like, you got to get your venue. There's a lot of things that you have to tick off. But I would definitely say that the honeymoon should also be up there when you start planning. Plus, it's the fun part.
So for me, I'm just the opposite. I don't want the big reception. I want the honeymoon.
I do get that also. I do get that also.
And I'm sure you help with destination weddings in that capacity, correct?
We do. Absolutely. Yes.
All right, here's a question for you. How about any special perks that you can offer honeymooners when they're booking through you?
Absolutely. We work closely with different suppliers and tour operators. We build these relationships. So I personally I call myself the traveling travel advisor because I go a quarter of the year, I'm gone, I'm in destination. And so I'm making these relationships. So I have a lot of personal contacts that I will send what I call my VIP email. And I say, hey, I have so and so coming. They're my VIP clients. They're honeymooners. They just got married. They really need, some downtime. Can you do something for them? Can you put something in their room, a banner on their door? Can you do a candlelight dinner for them? So that is definitely one of the perks that you have with using, I guess I won't say all travel advisors. I'll just, hope a lot of them I'm sure do that also. But that's definitely something I do is I do try to VIP my clients just to get you that extra little perk. So
It's good to know people,
yeah,
right? I think that's one of the things that most people really don't value as much as they should is that everything that you do in life and every success that you have in life and every win that you have comes through people and how you treat them
right.
and engage with them so critically important because you never know what they can do for you, right? Never
That's what
burn a
I've
bridge.
learned.
Right. So you have a couple and they each have a different vision for their honeymoon. One wants to
Yes.
lay on the beach and get some
Yes.
sun, and the other one wants to go hiking in the Gonda. Talk to me. Tell me, like,
Yes.
what you would
Yes.
advise them.
That's the best part. So I always do this consultation, call whenever, the lead comes in and we get on the phone and sometimes, they'll come here. It's my office. So sometimes they'll come in here and we talk and then I'll say, okay, so tell me what you're looking for. And the fiance may say, oh, I just want to lay on a beach. I just planned a wedding and I want to lay on the beach. And then the other, side says, oh, I was thinking like that we could go do this or go do that. And since we're going to be in this place, and then I'm sitting there going, okay, we got this. And I said, really, my biggest thing is it's compromise, right? You're going to have to learn that throughout your married life. So
Right.
why not start now? Usually in these situations, what we do is we pick somewhere with a great beach, a great pool. We pick somewhere like, let's just say Mexico, if they wanted to do a beach vacation, because Mexico's filled with history. There's tons of excursions you can do. So if they end up wanting to do a lot, it's available to them. If they're like, we're going to scale back and have a beach day, they can do that also. So I do tell them it's definitely about compromise. We'll try to pick a place for you, maybe Costa Rica, somewhere where you can kind of get the best of both worlds. So that's how we handle those conversations.
And that was leading me into my next question, which is what are some unique honeymoon ideas for couples who want something different from a traditional beach resort?
Right, absolutely. I will say there is a big trend for, obviously people are still wanting the beach vacations, the Mexico, the Caribbean, they want to lay on the beach. But what we are seeing, and again, at these bridal shows that I've been doing, talking to some of them, they're like, oh, we want to go to Italy, we want to go here, we want to go there. And what I'm finding is people really want more of that experience. So they might want to go to Italy, but not necessarily to like be on the go the whole time. They want to stay in a villa. They want to go to Tuscany and they want to do a cooking class or a wine tasting or, just something like that. So that is definitely, we're finding that a lot more. I've been in the business for a while. And so there was lots of sun and fun and sand. And there definitely is a lot of that. But it is interesting the uptick on people who are like, we'd love to go to Greece. We'd love to spend a couple nights in Santorini or Mykonos or so that's definitely coming around and not necessarily again for the sightseeing, but more for the cultural experiences.
100%. I find that even with the entertainment industry, that the immersive experience is what everyone's looking for, whether it be a photo booth or a magician or we do casino games. They are really wanting that engagement and not everyone just standing around with a cocktail in their hand. And not everyone can get down on the dance floor, right? It's all
Right.
about the experience.
Right. Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about documentation, and I know recently things have changed for travel, even within the US, things have
Right.
changed where you need a
Right.
specific license. What type of
Right.
documents do you need to
Right.
go abroad?
So traveling abroad, you absolutely have to have your passport. So it doesn't matter. And now I think with this whole real ID, some people are saying, well, can I just travel with my real ID? And no, you cannot. Domestically, you can. You have to now. But when you're traveling abroad, you have to have a passport. And there are requirements on that. So if you're departing in July of this year, your passport cannot expire for 6 months beyond your trip. So basically, January of the following year is when your passport would have to expire. And some people say that doesn't make any sense. Well, it kind of does, because let's just say something happens to you, heaven forbid you have a medical issue or something happens and you're stuck in this other country and your passport expires and you're trying to come back home into the States. So it's really a protection. And I will say the other thing, some of these, countries, even if you're going into the Dominican Republic, it's very simple to do. It's an online immigration form. You used to get it when you flew in, you'd have to write the paper out on the plane. And they've changed that. It's pretty simple. You go online, you fill out a form, you take that, you show the QR code. I feel like half the time they don't even ask for it. But you do have to, it is a requirement to have, but it's really not bad. And then, if you're traveling to Europe, we just have to make sure there's no special visa that's required. Going into London now, they did change up some things. So we always check to make sure wherever you're going that you're covered.
You have to plan for what will go wrong.
Yes, always, always.
I have a little story about that. One of my first trips to Jamaica, I was 18 years old, and what a beautiful place, right? I've been to every
Yes.
part of Jamaica there is, and I think I've been there 10 times total. But one of our first trips there, they drive on the other side of the road. And so we had two cars, and I was in the second car, and my love was driving, and his brother was in the car in front of us. And he went to pass, and so we just followed to pass, and then there was an oncoming car. So the brother, at the time was going to be my brother-in-law, um, ran a dump truck off the road into the beach. Yes. And he made the decision to do that because he knew if he just pulled back in, he would kill me and his brother. And we ended up being stuck in Jamaica for at least another week that we didn't expect,
Right.
dealing with all the legalities and paying for the truck. And God bless, no one was hurt. You just don't know. You're in a
Absolutely.
foreign country, things can happen, things that you don't expect. Expect the unexpected when you
Always.
travel, always.
Yes. Yes.
Heat changes.
Yes.
All those videos that you see on the internet where people were, like, fighting over where they're sitting or somebody else, like, learn to be patient
Right.
because you have to be adaptable when you're traveling, right?
Right. That is a huge thing in the industry. And all of these forums, I'm in all these advisors. The biggest, piece of advice we tell our clients are pack your patience. So when you're packing your suitcase, make sure you're packing your patience, because the other day I had people flying and they were going through immigration. They were coming back. They made it to Charlotte. Great. I watched their flight. They made it. They're in immigration. All of a sudden, I get a thing that their flight canceled, their next flight. And I was like, they had no idea. They're in immigration. I'm trying to help them. So thankfully, I gave them that tip beforehand. I was like, listen, you're not getting home tonight. I'm going to set that expectation right now. And remember, we packed our patience. We have to use it right now.
I
So,
love that
yeah.
tagline.
Yeah.
That is fabulous. So, let's talk a little bit about travel insurance. Can you tell me why you would recommend that for your honeymooners?
Absolutely. So this really goes to what we were just speaking to. You don't know what can happen. You have just no idea. So whether it's before you go, everybody says, well, we're definitely going. We're definitely going on the trip. And of course, that's always the intent. You wouldn't book it if you were thinking you weren't going to go, but you have no idea. Somebody can get sick. Something can happen. You could break your leg, heaven forbid. And if you don't have insurance and you're in penalty, you lose everything. And that's a lot of money to lose
Right.
because, you didn't pay for the couple $100 travel protection. If your flight is delayed and your baggage is delayed, if you're in destination and heaven forbid something happened medically, if you don't have any travel protection, like that's all on you. So it is, everybody says to me, well, do you buy? I 100% buy the travel protection anytime I go anywhere, and I've had to use it. So I 100% I recommend it. Yes.
It goes to the belts and suspenders theory, right?
Yes. Yes.
Girl Scout, prepared for
Yeah.
anything.
Yes. Yes. My plans have plans. So I'm always trying to be prepared as much as I can. So,
As an event planner. Totally. Like, that's one of my biggest taglines, and I'm probably gonna repeat this over and over
yeah.
again. When people say, "You've been an event planner 30 plus years. What's that like?" I'm like, "I'm not an event planner. I'm a fireman. I put out
Yes.
fires. As long
Yes.
as no one knows there was a fire, life is
Yes.
good."
Yes.
'Cause these can and will go wrong. It's human behavior.
Right.
Like, and that's part of the journey that I think a lot of couples have a misconception. They expect, like, everything's gonna be perfect. I have it all organized. I have my binder. I have the perfect vendors. They've all been recommended to me, but what they don't really take into account is human behavior, and that's something that you have absolutely no control over.
Right.
Human behavior will have a huge impact on your day. It's dad forgetting the keys. It's mom, bringing two left shoes. It's the, accident on the parkway that's delaying traffic. There's all of these things that are external from your well organized plan that
Right.
can and will affect. And so,
Right.
packing patience
Yes.
is something that I think is a great tagline just for wedding planning, not just travel.
Yes. Absolutely.
I have a couple more questions for you before I
Sure.
let you get back to your day. For couples who want to do a surprise honeymoon, what do you got up your sleeve for that?
Actually done this, not too often. I've done different components. There's different ways to do it. There are some people who, and a lot of times the groom, they seem to be the ones, the bride says, I've done all this planning, you take care of the honeymoon. And so then I get the call from the groom and where are we going? And I did have, one where he said, I'm not telling her anything. I was like, what do you mean you're not telling her anything? Why isn't she on this call? I always have, both of you on the call. And he said, nope, she told me I'm in charge. I'm planning it. And so we did. We planned this whole, I said, okay. So we sat down. I said, oh, tell me about her. Like, talk to me. Tell me. I want to get to know her. Tell me. So we just really talked about like what she liked, what she needed, what was stressing her out about the wedding. Should we make spa appointments? Should we? It was the sweetest. He was absolutely the sweetest. And she had no clue where they were going. He ended up getting her a butler suite at a Sandals resort, and she was pampered the whole time. And I just kept getting texts and pictures, and this is incredible. I can't believe he did this. And so that's a really big thing to do. That doesn't happen too often. But what I will have is, somebody will say, you know what, we booked this room, but I want to surprise her or I want to surprise him. I want to book, I want to do an elevated experience. Can we get that swim out room? Can we get the master suite? And just don't say anything. Don't tell them. Make sure whatever documentation you send. So we've done that. They've, done different spa treatments. They'll set up for them. We'll have, maybe a nice dinner set up on the beach that the other person doesn't know about. So there are lots of, fun little ways that we can incorporate surprises along the
I love that because it gives the
way.
grooms or
Right.
the person not
Right.
planning the wedding a
Yes.
little bit of fun.
Right. Right.
Mhm. They can do something special. So here's a question I think most brides would ask. I've been around long enough that I've utilized a travel agent. It used to be, years ago when I had a business, if we were doing a photo shoot in Cancun, we would do this with my business I had in the 90s, that I would just contact my travel agent and say, book it, book everything that I need. I don't even need to look at anything. And when the internet came along and you can go online and you can find your flights and your hotel and what have you, and I don't think that the generation that's getting married now, our millennials or Gen Zs, are really aware of why you would choose a travel advisor, a travel agent over doing it yourself. And I'd like for you to clarify that for them.
This literally, you're right, you're in my soul right there. Because this is, I have one word for you, and that is me. You get me. You get our services and what we provide. So sure, can you go online and look at pretty pictures and say, oh, this hotel looks so great. This is where we want to go. And then you show up and you're like, what happened? This is not what was on the internet. So number one, a lot of times, and again, I can't speak for everybody, I'll speak for me, and there are definitely some amazing travel advisors out there. We travel. So most of the places that I send you to, I've been. I've stayed in, I ate the food, I drank the drinks, I did the excursions, I met the people. I can full confidence say to you, this is a fantastic resort. You're going to have a great time. And what I actually find so interesting is that this, and I always forget like what generation is the youngest generation right now. Is it are we at Gen Z now? Is that where we're at?
I think it's
I,
Gen Z
is that what
brides.
it is?
Yeah.
Okay. So, a lot of people will say that. They'll say, oh, you with this internet and everything. I said, oh, no, that's who's calling me. So, like, my age people are like, I can do it myself. I can do it. But the younger ones, think about it. And I thought, it makes total sense. So, like, I grew up with a dad who worked at Turner Dairy my whole life, for 40 some years of my life anyway. And back in the day, they would do home delivery, right? You could get your milk delivered, all those things delivered. And then it all went away. And now we're back to DoorDash, Grubhub, grocery delivery. This generation wants to be serviced and they get it. They understand it. They might not understand how it works. I always talk about how my process works, how I get paid, because that is a little confusing for them, but they want service. And like I said, it makes total sense when you think about how it's kind of come full circle with the DoorDash and all of these places. People don't want to, if they can have it at their fingertips, they want it and they want the service. And the travel advising business, we are 100% service. So, you can book the same thing online for the same price that I'm going to give it to you for. Sometimes I can get you a better deal, sometimes I can't. But when you're booking it by yourself, when that flight cancels and you're sitting in immigration, you're dealing with it. And when your flight is delayed and you're on your way to St. Lucia and you're like, what am I going to do? I watch your flights. I have an app. I know when your flight takes away from the gate. I know when it goes up in the air. I do a little dance and say, go, flight, go. And it's really bizarre, but that's what you get. So I actually had somebody stop into my agency the other day out of the clear blue. This man, I had no idea. He goes, can I just ask you one question? This is how he started the conversation with me. I said, sure. He said, can you tell me why you're relevant? You walked into my office and you asked me why I'm relevant. But actually, why I could have been really offended by it. I'm like, first of all, do you see me? I'm in a storefront. If I wasn't relevant, do you think that I would be putting out the, investment of being here when so many people are working from home? I am very relevant. And the people who understand that and understand the service that a travel advisor can bring, like it's, why give yourself that extra hassle if you don't need to? So sorry, I'm very passionate about that.
So that was actually a great answer. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the couples, at the end of the day, and this is another thing that I think we're going to discuss a lot in podcasts, is anyone can recommend you anywhere. You can see the stamp of approval somewhere from, a wedding website, what have you. And we even recommend friends in the industry, right? Like if somebody asks for a photo booth, you're probably going to recommend me. But that is not the same as doing your due diligence. And due diligence is getting that raw, real feedback about that location and that resort. With AI these days, you can falsify images all
Right.
day long. You can
Absolutely.
falsify videos, you can falsify voices. I think it's critically important to not assume that what you see is what you get in any capacity, any part of your wedding planning, including the planning of your travel. And, being that it doesn't cost them anything more, why not? I mean, why wouldn't you is my question. It's not why would you? Why wouldn't you? Right?
Right. When you're paying it already. I had a consultation the other day, and they were talking about it, and I said, just so you know, like there's, if you were to book, let's say a sandals resort, and you look it up online, the price they have online is the same price I'm going to give you. You're paying for a travel advisor if you book it online. You're just not getting the travel advisor because the price is the exact same. So, that is definitely something that, and they were like, oh, we didn't even think about that. I'm like, so
I
that's
love
my
it. I
little
love it.
tip.
I love when one of our Pittsburgh Brides members can validate and explain those variables to the couples because they just don't know. And
Right.
so that's what this podcast is all about, is helping you navigate through some of those waters where you're just uncertain and not sure of comparing apples to apples or apples to oranges or apples to grapes, right? You need to
Right.
know those
Right.
differences.
Right.
So one last point I want to cover is that you're a VTA. Can you please explain this difference? Because I know that there is a lot of individuals in your field, but I'd like to let the brides know
Sure.
where that puts you in the level of knowledge and experience.
Sure. So our professional industry is called ASTA, like they're our professional association, American Society of Travel Advisors. So they're the ones, believe it or not, they're fighting for us on Capitol Hill when airlines want to start charging, the travel agents back for canceled flights or just whatever it might be. So ASTA is there and they fight on our behalf. And so they are our professional association. And they have a program called a verified travel advisor that we have to go through a rigorous program. We have to there's testing that has to be done. We have to show, so like I'm an independent agent and I have my own, our industry code is called an IATA number. And I took that and got certified. I didn't have to, but I did. And to become a verified travel advisor, there's a lot of things that I had to do to certify that I, A, know what I'm talking about. And B, I have proven to be trustworthy thus far. They look into your background. They do, some background things. And so it is a pretty rigorous program to go through, but it was really important for me to do it, for me to do it, but if you're going to put your trust in me and your investment in me, and I have, honeymoon couples that spend $20,000. Whether you're spending $3,000 or $20,000, like that's your investment. And you want to make sure that it's going to someone who at least seems to have been deemed, trustworthy. And so, that's a big, for me, that was just a really important thing. Not everybody is, and there are certainly trustful travel advisors out there that are not VTAs. But for me personally, that's why I wanted to do it.
I can agree with you that on that. I'm a member of some associations myself that acknowledgement and recognition that you want to get certified and
Right.
want to let your clients know that you have gone through that is important. I've got two quick questions for you. Well, one's kind of travel related, the other is not. So
Perfect.
first thing I'm going to ask is tell me something about you that's like your superpower that nobody would know.
My superpower that nobody would know. That the problem is I'm very out there. If I think it, it's coming out my mouth. But actually, I think probably the biggest thing would be I tend to be, oh, she's so fun. She is, oh, she's so spur of the moment and she's so like go with the flow. I am not. I am very type A. I am very like, let's get it done. While, yes, my personality is authentic and I really like get that off the list. I think actually is a good thing because I think it's good that I can be like, but yet in the background, I got it. It's under control. It might seem a little flighty at the time, but I have it. So to me, that's a little bit of a superpower because I feel like I can bring both aspects to.
I think that's a hidden superpower because I didn't see that coming. You fooled me on
I
that
saw
one.
your face.
Yeah, you fooled me on that one. So, and the last question I have before I'm going to let you get back to making sure all of those honeymoons are well planned is I know that you travel and you do your due diligence for the couples and you do some research. Will you join us again from abroad somewhere so that we can
Oh
get the
gosh.
deets live?
Yes. Yes. I am heading to Italy in July. So we can go from the canals of Venice to the hills of Tuscany. or the Amalfi Coast. So I'll let you pick. I'll tell you where I'm at. And there's a little saying my family always says, and some people on my Instagram, where in the world is Chrissy Cole? Because we never know. But I'll let you know where I'm going and when I'm going. And I would love to come back on and do this with you.
Wonderful. We will do that. And how can the couples connect with you that have listened to this podcast and watched the show on YouTube or any of the channels that we'll be posting?
Yes, absolutely. So my website is escaperealitytravel.net. They can send me an email to hello@escaperealitytravel.net. I'm also on the socials. I have a business Facebook page. I have a business Instagram page, both Escape Reality Travel. I think it's like LLC is what it is. And we are located in the Murraysville area.
And you have a storefront so they can make an
I do.
appointment, pop in and meet you in person and get all that
Yes.
love from Chrissy and let her
Yes.
start planning.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
they can also find you on our website. You're a featured member on pittsburghbrides.com and also in our Facebook group at Pittsburgh Brides. You're in there often chatting on the threads and answering questions. Chrissy, thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely.
I have
Yes.
enjoyed having you here. I think you answered a lot of great questions
Thank you.
that couples would have when planning their honeymoon. And I'll look forward to another podcast live from Italy. I think I'd love to
Perfect.
do that. I think it would be fabulous.
That'd be so much fun. Thank you so much for having me. It was great. I appreciate it.